want to. What questions? You had a question, right? Socially, Kalia and Orchid. Kalia is definitely more dominant most days, but Orchid you will see be more dominant in some occasions. With the girls, you know, it's really cool because in some social situations with the boys, they will regulate, which is really, really amazing to see because they are dominant. They are females, they're matriarchal based as killer whales, so the girls should be telling the boys, you know, hey, cool your jets, relax, what's going on, everything's fine. And it's, you know, really amazing to see that. I've seen it, you know, with the whales multiple times. My favorite one was with Orchid. Yuli was being a little pain, and she stood underwater and was following him and talking to him and underwater, and you could see her and hear her vocalizing. I'm like, oh my goodness, there you go, girl, you tell him. But yeah, there is that social structure, and you know, as of right now, you'll see Orchid and Keat a lot. They're just best pals, which is really cool, and quirky-eyed Kaika, obviously. They're like that little pair. And Connie, she's flipping around. He loves being with his sister. It's always really cool together because they're so in sync sometimes, especially being siblings. It's really beautiful to see their bond, especially, you know, when there was more of the family around. It's just really cool to see how close knit they are. I'm gonna go her first and me afterwards. Yes. Yes, I knew I always wanted to do killer whales. I've always loved killer whales my entire life, so if it's something that you want to do, you will get there. If you keep working hard for it, I promise you it will happen. Just speak into the universe, no problem. So if an animal is incorrect, like Makani, who is more than often incorrect, which is okay, normally he'll come back with a pretty good attitude. We can LRS that, essentially give him a few second pause and bridge him, and then even reinforce him afterwards, because he normally will come back with a good attitude. We don't have to reinforce every single time, just to have that variability.
Jesus.
We want to make sure that the behaviors that they are doing are correct, especially with the whale like Makani, who is incorrect most times. Doesn't mean that we don't enjoy it and we're not like, oh my god, what is he doing? But we typically want to give an LRS if they are incorrect. But if we're playing around with him, then it's something else, because if we're just playing on he's incorrect, it's fine at this point. Yes. Are there whales that have not gotten along? Yes. The question was, are there whales that have not gotten along? Yes. So with the whales here, we have 8 members of the pod. You know, they're very, very social animals. You will see them socialize with each other in a wide variety of ways when it comes to mating, when it comes to, you know, frustration, things like that. And they will tell each other. It's very, very normal with their day-to-day life. You'll also see it in river dolphins. You know, they have that pretty obvious, you know, breaking on them. It's just normal for the killer whales. So yeah, they do have their challenges daily. I mean, it's, you know, pick and choose your battles. Sometimes you're like, oh, they're being kind of weird. It's like, all right, if they're being kind of weird, let's just try to change the social situation and see how we can work around it. But yeah, they do have their internal struggles sometimes, just like we do. Any other questions? With closing the gates, it means, so there's trainers that are back there down to other whales. If the gate is closed, those trainers can step up from their animals and come watch the session or help with the session, whether that be tapping for behaviors or being another B points, things like that. But there's other trainers that are back there. Now, if it was just Corky back there, or sorry, just Corky with the 2 pools, we could go back and forth between both pools. Doesn't mean that she can't go back there, or who is it, like Kaika, doesn't mean that they can't go back and forth. But if they're doing a session, they're probably going to be out here because of more room, as well as the depth, and having, you know, more space for him to do a session in a while. Yes, the boys are much larger, so you might not get that criteria that Kalia and Shuga or Orchid have. Doesn't mean that they can't, but you know, Ulysses is a very athletic killer whale. I kind of can get up there pretty high as well. Pete, you know, he used to, when he was a little bit smaller, be able to do, you know, break spin and a wide variety of other behaviors. It's just kind of like human beings. Not everyone can run incredibly fast. Doesn't mean they can't run. You just might not get that same speed from every single person. You know? So it's kind of Pete's situation. And also, he's just incredibly intelligent. Something like, I don't want to do that, but I'm halfway. So. Any other questions? Yuli is, oh gosh, I think he's a little over 10,000. He's bigger than Ikaika right now, I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I remember like Ikaika being bigger than Ulysses for like a couple months.
Yeah, they've all kind of fluctuated. Even Pete hadn't hit 10,000 for like a very short period of time. So those three boys have been kind of interchangeable, but Yuli's the biggest right now. Ikaika, Yuli's been the most consistent 10,000, but I think Ikaika probably will get a little bit. Yeah.
Ooh, wait, that's a great segue to me.
I have not trained at TNT, but typically you want to have those large target poles to be able to get those flukes popped up. The whales were
Over here,
trained,
Anna.
you know.
Sorry.
Oh, it's very distracting. I know. It's great. It's great. With the target poles, you know, kind of the talk that we were talking about with the merman. They have been taught, you know, when they typically have a tap in the water with certain behaviors, they'll flick their tail, or they'll, you know, slap their tail, or they'll splash. Those kind of all go hand in hand with training at TNT. We can train it in a wide variety of ways. I mean, it has to be trained the same way, but I feel like typically they'll work that behavior from like an A to B first, and they'll slowly transition and have the ventral, the target pole, and finagling them and dipping the target pole underwater. So just a behavior that's really nice to see, but also natural behavior for the whales too. Sorry, very loud. So our question was, what is our swim test like? Our swim test, if you are already working in the park, you'll come from another area, some sort, you'll have that original swim test, whether it be dolphin or wild Arctic or things along those lines. Coming to this area, it is an 80-foot swim on the surface of the water within 30 seconds. And then afterwards, we have our belts. That is a 16-foot free dive to your scuba diver down in the water, deploying your belts, breathing off, and surfacing back up. That is our short version. For our elongated swim test, which we have every 6 months, we will do the same 80-foot across swim in 30 seconds. We'll dive down to our scuba, take a breath, breathe on the way up, and deploy our belts. And then we also have to swim underwater with our belts breathing, and we'll also have another trot line bottle that we can breathe. Breathe with the trot line bottle there, and then on the way back with our belts. But if you're coming into the park as an outside employee, gosh, I don't know what I think it's like a 200-meter swim for, I think it's for killer whale, I think it's like a 200-meter swim freestyle. 15 feet. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what if you're coming from outside, one is. I came from Dolphin. The Dolphin Point 1 is an 80-foot underwater swim, breath hold, and then a 16-foot free dive. Dolphin Show is the same 80-foot underwater breath hold, and then 26-foot free dive. Yeah. Sorry.
It's fine, it's fine.
Okay. So or
they can hear it. They can hear a lot of things. They have very good hearing. They can hear each other in the wild. They can hear each other from miles away. They can also communicate through gaits. So sometimes, you know, even in a presentation or in a like a dine or a session, a tour of some sort, you'll sometimes see the more dominant animals. They're looking at you, and then they'll duck their head underwater, and they're listening to get a better listen of what's going on. So that's with communication. That's one of the best things. If you're in another pool area and you're like, you know, there's a lot of white water going on, there's side breaching going on in the back pool, that's one thing to communicate, because if you're in the main pool over here and your animal's ducked underwater and they're being weird, you know, like, I don't know what's going on, that communication from back there might tell you, hey, I understand what's going on now. My dominant animal is paying attention to what's going on socially. She's paying attention to me, but they're also seeing what's going on, making sure, you know, all the whales are behaving appropriately, or just seeing what's happening with the other whales.